Morning arrived heavy with tension. The sky was overcast, the ocean dull and gray. Even the waves seemed tired, dragging themselves onto the shore like they didn't want to be there either. Inside the house, everything was still. The boys moved like ghosts, avoiding eye contact, stepping around each other like they might explode if they touched. But the truth was already burning underneath their skin, too loud to ignore for much longer. Jeremiah couldn't shake Belly's letter from his head. You can't love two people the same way. The words echoed inside him, making everything he thought he knew feel like a lie. He had built his future around her, dreamed it, fought for it, nearly married her. And now? Now it felt like he was just a placeholder. The second choice. And worst of all, he knew Conrad never said a word. Not when it mattered. Jeremiah's anger wasn't just about losing Belly. It was about the silence. The quiet betrayal. How Conrad had just stood back, watched it all unfold, never speaking up, never telling the truth. He let Jeremiah believe he had a chance. He let him build a dream on top of a secret that was already cracking. So when Jeremiah found Conrad in the kitchen that morning, everything boiled over. Why didn't you tell her you loved her? Conrad, mid-sip of coffee, froze. You had the chance, Jeremiah continued. So many times. And you just didn't. Why? Conrad set the mug down slowly. Because I thought she was happy with you. Jeremiah laughed, bitter and sharp. No. You thought you'd lose her either way. So you played the martyr. Let me be the bad guy when it all fell apart. Conrad's jaw tightened. You think I wanted this? I think you wanted to be the victim, Jeremiah snapped. That way, you wouldn't have to take responsibility when it all went to hell. The silence was deafening. Then, Conrad said quietly, I didn't say anything. Because I didn't want her to choose out of guilt. You didn't want her to choose me, you mean? No. Just stop. You don't get to rewrite this now. You don't get to pretend like you were doing me a favor. Conrad looked away, but Jeremiah wasn't done. I was ready to spend the rest of my life with her. I was all in. And maybe she wasn't. But at least I showed up. At least I tried. The words hung in the air like smoke. Conrad didn't argue. He didn't have to. Because everything Jeremiah said was true. And still, none of it made anything easier. Jeremiah stormed out, the door slamming behind him. The walls rattled. The air shifted. And for the first time, Conrad realized something he hadn't wanted to admit. He didn't just lose Belly. He lost his brother too. That evening, Laurel came back. She found Conrad alone on the porch, staring out at the ocean like it could give him answers. He didn't look at her when she sat down. He didn't need to. She already knew. They say time heals, Laurel said softly. But they never tell you how long. Conrad didn't respond. Sometimes, she continued, healing means facing the part of yourself you don't want to see. He turned to her then, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. I don't know who I am without her. Laurel gave a sad smile. Then it's time you figure that out. Meanwhile, Jeremiah was driving, nowhere in particular, just away. Away from the house, from the past, from the version of himself that wasn't enough. The road blurred around him, headlights slicing through the dark. He didn't know where he was going. But he knew what he was running from. At a gas station on the edge of town, he finally stopped. Hands shaking, he pulled out his phone. He looked at her name. Isabel. Not Belly. Not the girl from the beach. Just the woman who broke him. He typed something. Then deleted it. Then typed again. But he never pressed send. Because he knew it wasn't her he needed to talk to. It was Conrad. Back at the house, the night grew colder. The wind howled. The waves grew louder. Like the whole world was bracing for what came next. And so were they. Because the final truth hadn't been spoken yet. But it was coming. And it would change everything. It began like every other summer, light spilling through the windows of the beach house, the air thick with salt and old memories. For Jeremiah and Conrad, Cousins Beach wasn't just a place. It was a history, a home, and a haunting. They had always shared everything, their childhood, their grief, and eventually, their love for Belly. But this summer was different. It wasn't just about winning her heart. It was about survival. Emotional survival. Jeremiah was the first to arrive. His car was still packed with half-folded clothes and unopened Gatorade bottles from a night he couldn't quite remember. He was trying, as always, to stay cheerful, to patch things up before they fell apart. But his smile didn't reach his eyes anymore. Not since the wedding that never happened. Not since Belly said no. Conrad showed up a day later, unannounced, like he always did. Quiet, brooding, carrying the weight of things left unsaid. He didn't ask about the cancelled wedding. He didn't have to. The silence between the brothers spoke louder than words ever could. They circled each other like strangers. Living in the same house, breathing the same salty air, but walking on opposite sides of a line neither wanted to cross. Every word was measured. Every look, calculated. Beneath it all, the same question pulsed between them: who hurt more? Jeremiah kept himself busy, fixing the fence, making pancakes, laughing too loud. Conrad kept to the shadows, headphones in, reading the same dog-eared book over and over. But neither could escape the ghost of Belly. Her absence was everywhere. Her shoes still by the door. Her name carved into the deck. Her laughter trapped in the walls of the house like an echo that wouldn't fade. One night, it all cracked. They were alone on the porch. The stars were out, the waves crashing just beyond the dunes. Jeremiah had just finished his third beer when he finally said it. "You think she still loves you?" Conrad didn't look up. "I don't think anything anymore. She picked me. She was going to marry me. She didn't." The silence that followed was heavier than the night air. "You always think you're the one who's hurting the most," Jeremiah snapped. "But guess what, man? You're not the only one who lost her." Conrad turned to him, eyes darker than the sky. "You didn't lose her. You never really had her." Those words were a match dropped in dry grass. Jeremiah stood up, chest rising, fists clenched. "Say that again." "Why? You already know it's true." That's how it began, the unraveling. Two brothers standing on the edge of everything they had built, everything they had buried. This wasn't just about Belly anymore. It was about years of pain, of jealousy, of never feeling good enough. Of watching someone else live the life you thought was meant for you. Inside, the house creaked. The wind picked up. But neither of them moved. This wasn't a fight they could walk away from. And deep down, they both knew. The real storm hadn't even started yet. The morning after the porch confrontation was quiet, too quiet. The kind of silence that didn't just mean peace, but pressure. The house felt tighter, the walls a little closer, the floorboards groaning with the weight of unspoken truths. Jeremiah didn't come out of his room. Conrad made coffee but didn't touch it. The scent filled the kitchen like a memory that wouldn't fade, bitter and sharp. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The line had been crossed. And now, there was no going back. Later that day, Laurel showed up. She didn't knock, she never did. She moved through the house with that same quiet grief she carried every summer, like a mother still haunted by old ghosts. She looked at the boys, her boys, and knew something had changed. Maybe it was in their eyes. Maybe it was in the way they didn't look at each other. "Laurel," Jeremiah started, voice strained, "why'd she call it off?" It was the question neither of them had dared ask. Not out loud. Not until now. The air shifted the next morning. It was subtle, barely noticeable, but it carried weight. Like the stillness before a storm that didn't just bring rain, but ruin. The beach house felt colder, even though the sun had returned. The kind of cold that comes from within, from things left unsaid for too long. Jeremiah was already back before sunrise. He didn't make a sound. Didn't slam doors or wake the house. He just walked inside like he didn't belong there anymore. His steps were quiet, but his thoughts were screaming. He was done running. Done pretending that time would fix things. He found Conrad in the living room, sitting on the same couch where they'd once fought over video games and movie nights. Now, that couch might as well have been a battlefield. "You knew," Jeremiah said, voice steady but heavy. "You knew she never stopped loving you. And you still let me stand there. Let me wait at that altar like a damn fool." Conrad didn't move. Didn't blink. "You watched me plan a life with her," Jeremiah continued. "You let me believe I was her future, when you knew I was just her escape." Conrad finally stood. "It wasn't like that." "Then tell me what it was like, Conrad. Because from where I'm standing, you stood by and let everything blow up, just so you didn't have to get your hands dirty." "I didn't want to be the reason you hated me." "Well, congratulations," Jeremiah snapped. "You got there anyway." The room was suffocating. Not just from the anger, but from the years of buried hurt that had never been dealt with. This wasn't just about Belly. This was about everything. The years of comparison. Of feeling second best. Of competing without ever choosing to. "I looked up to you," Jeremiah said quietly. "You were always the smart one. The strong one. The one who never cracked." Conrad looked down. "I cracked a long time ago. You just didn't see it." Silence. Then Jeremiah asked the question he had been holding back for years. "Why did she love you more?" Conrad looked up, pained. "I don't know." That was the truth. And it hurt more than any lie ever could. Jeremiah nodded slowly, eyes glassy. "That's the part one can't forgive. Not that she loved you. But that you didn't even fight for her." "I did," Conrad said softly. "I fought by letting her go." "No," Jeremiah said, voice breaking. "You let me go." And just like that, the final wall between them shattered. Because this wasn't about Belly anymore. Not really. This was about two brothers who never learned how to love each other without losing themselves. About how silence became their language. About how loyalty turned into quiet resentment. About how their love for the same girl exposed every crack they'd tried to ignore. Outside, thunder rumbled. The storm had arrived. Laurel stood in the hallway, listening, hearing the truth finally spill out after years of holding it in. Her heart broke for both of them. But she didn't step in. She knew they needed to bleed before they could heal. The storm hit in the afternoon. Rain slamming against the windows, wind howling through the gaps. The kind of storm that forced you to stop, to sit, to face everything you'd been avoiding. And so they did. The boys sat across from each other, silent again, but this time, it wasn't avoidance. It was exhaustion. It was acceptance. "I don't know how we come back from this," Jeremiah finally said. Conrad nodded. "We start by admitting we're not okay." "I'm not." "Me neither." A beat. Then Jeremiah laughed, bitter and hollow. "We're such a mess." Conrad smiled faintly. "Yeah. But we're our mess." And for the first time in weeks, the tension loosened, just a little. Not fixed. Not forgiven. But understood. The storm outside began to fade, leaving only the sound of the waves and the distant rumble of thunder. They weren't brothers in the way they used to be. But maybe, after everything, that was okay. Because sometimes, the truth doesn't destroy you. Sometimes, it sets you free.